Hey guys, Josh here from Sportitude running. It is shoe review time and we're going to be talking all things New Balance Vongo version 5 or Fresh Foam X Vongo version 5 for the correct name. So, I've got the ladies in my left hand through here and the men's in my right, and today's review is going to be pretty darn exciting because Vongo has been around for a few years now, but in Australia we haven't seen version 3 or 4 hit our market. New Balance decided to not bring that into our space, which was totally fine. Why I personally have had some history with Vongo version 1 and version 2. I was lucky enough to be a wear tester going back almost 8 years ago now for version 1, and I had some pretty interesting comments about that shoe. But that's all in the past. We're talking about the present and the future now. Vongo version 5 has had quite the update. We love what New Balance are doing with this shoe and where they're going in regards to their support systems and what they're going to be offering that high mileage runner looking for a little bit of support. So like all my reviews, what we do is we talk about the outsole, the midsole and the upper. I'm going to do a little bit of a comparison to the 1080 because this shoe is so similar to the 1080. So give you all the information at home that, who knows, may make this your next mileage shoe. So without further ado, let's get stuck in. Before we get stuck into the engineering of the Vongo, let's talk about the foot type and the runner that could be considering this shoe. So first things first, it is max cushion. There's a lot of oomph underneath the foot. Got full length Fresh Foam X cushioning system, so it's nice and soft and very plush underneath the foot. However, on the medial side, we have this new technology or this new execution of arch support. So it is dialed in for that mild over pronator. So for you at home that may not be aware of what that might look like, it's going to be a foot type that looks a little bit like this. So in a static position, we may have a slight tendency to display that arch out. And for that runner that comes down contact first, as they transition through mid-starts, we'll see a little bit of a tendency just to favour that instep or that medial side of your gait before your foot gets ready, engaged to then toe off out of your gait cycle. Okay guys, let's talk about the Vongo version 5. Now, as I touched on in the intro, Australia did not get version 3 or version 4 in this shoe. So my comparison today is going to be based on the 1080. So there's a lot of similarities with both of those shoes. So I hold in my left hand here the 1080 version 11. And first things first, let's talk all things outsole. So if you have a quick glance right there, it is pretty hard to see the differences in both the Vongo and the 1080. However, there's a marginal change in the surface area. New Balance have engineered a shoe that's got a slightly wider midfoot region through here. So to be exact, they've gone 5 mil wider in a men's size 9. And the other biggest change is regards to the execution of their harder or more durable rubbers. At the back through here, almost that J or that backwards J, fish hook, that darker green rubber is a carbon rubber. It's a more durable, harder density rubber. And also it is a little bit thicker on this medial side, and as it transitions up to where you would usually see, or previously we might have seen a truss-stick system, it comes up a little bit past your midfoot stage of your gait cycle, which provides that arch support a little bit more structure and integrity with regards to that carbon rubber. In comparing it to the 1080, you can see that where that truss-stick system sits through here, there is a little flex groove where there's a slightly bit of exposed fresh foam technology through there. And the other thing too, as you come through to the forefoot, the flexibility on offer in the version 11 1080 is a little bit more pronounced through that forefoot. Remembering this is dialed in for a neutral to mildly supinated foot types, and then a little bit more flexibility through the forefoot. With regards to the Vongo, which is protecting that mild over pronator, that needs a little bit more rigidity through the forefoot, so not quite as flexible through the front half of the shoe. Okay, now talking about the midsole, because like the 1080, the Vongo has a lot of juice underneath the foot. The Fresh Foam X cushioning system has been incredibly well received. Now, we rewind the clock 18 months when we saw 1080 version 10 hit the market. It created a lot of hype and there was a lot of uptake with that shoe. It was incredibly comfortable. Not a whole lot changed with version 11, a couple of tweaks in the upper, but when we saw Vongo and I was lucky enough to run in a pair around about 10 months ago, I was super amped about what this shoe was all about. So to touch on the subtle variances between the midsole from Vongo to 1080, there is a little bit more stack. We have a 34-26 in the Vongo, and we've got a 30-22 in the 1080. So still got that 8mm heel to toe drop. However, having a slightly higher stack is more due to the fact it's going to provide a little bit more cushioning for that mild overpronator. Now, as we come through to the medial side through here, this is where New Balance have put a lot of time and effort into executing their arch support. Now, what I want to do is take a little bit of a journey. When we rewind the clock way back to Vongo version 1, that shoe was still classified as a relatively high stack shoe. It was on a 4mm heel to toe drop, so it was lower profile. And on the medial side, they use a really aggressive convex system, and in conjunction with a very aggressive concave setup on that lateral side. So a reason they were doing that was provide a gradient support system that was going to compress in the lateral side for cushioning, but wouldn't be too intrusive as that foot transitions through to mid-stance. Now, that was good for probably the first 50 kilometers. However, when the lateral side, that concave setup, started to compress too much, it created too much of a gradient on that medial side to the lateral side comparison. So we saw a lot of Vongos early days to be tipping out quite a lot with regards to their positioning after a roughly about 50 Ks, as I touched on. Now, New Balance, like all brands, they take these learnings and they improve their shoes. Now, what we see through here with this gradient arch support is it's highlighted with almost like a bit of a marble coloration on the medial side through here. And how New Balance have executed this gradient is when they've poured the EVA into their sets, it's temperature controlled. So to get that variance in geometry on the medial to lateral side, they removed the separation and the two foams bonded together quite easily. And that created a slightly more denser medial side than the lateral side. And to be exact, I think it's 60 points to 45. So only 15 geometry points variance, not like your dual density systems, which are double. So it is a slightly less intrusive way to execute an arch support, but I do really like how it feels. It's, as I touched on a few times, it's less intrusive, it's very smooth, very comfortable underneath the foot. It does run like a neutral shoe, I'm going to be honest, but it does provide that little bit of control and stability for that mild overpronator. Okay guys, let's talk about the upper on the Vongo. So we can see it is very similar to the 1080. New Balance used their Hyperknit technology, which I actually really like the fit. I love the fit of the 1080 version 10, liked it in version 11, and no different here with the Vongo. So it's a relatively flexible construction through that forefoot. So it can be a little bit shallower, which is a good thing. You can get a really dialed in fit through your front half of your foot, but knowing that it's going to have a little bit of space to expand when required. So if your foot swells a little bit on those longer days out on the road, you know you're going to have a little bit of wriggle room there through the forefoot, just purely and simply through that Hyperknit technology. The biggest change is more to do with how much they have on offer. Now, when we're talking about that overpronated foot type, obviously there's going to be a little bit of extra stress as you go through your gait cycle if you talk about how your foot's going to function. So they've tightened up their weave on the medial side and also on the lateral side through here as well. A little bit different to the 1080, it's a little bit more open on where the upper meets the midsole, both lateral and medial side. Still nice and strong, however, it's certainly more secure with regards to the Vongo. As we come through to the midfoot, I really like what they've done with their saddle. Again, I had to go for a couple of runs to realise there is no gusseted tongue, and for those of you that know me, I love a gusseted tongue, but I did not notice it in regards to the Vongo version 5. What they have offered and how they've executed that lockdown through the mid part of your foot up top is really on point. They've nailed the structure, the integrity, and also the fit up top around your arch. As you come through to the heel canter at the back, you can see you've got that anatomical sort of almost lean away setup going on with regards to the Achilles. So therefore you can get a really dialed in fit around the base of your heel, but not overcomplicate things too much, and also have a little bit of a tilt with that Achilles flare through here. So it just doesn't put too much pressure on that Achilles insertion at the back. Now, while we're talking all things heel canters, I'm just going to point out one fun fact through here. So while we see this structure at the back in the Vongo version 5, take a snapshot because this little system will be put on the version 12 1080 when that shoe drops later in 2021. So obviously New Balance have loved what they've done in the lab, in their wear testing, and obviously early days with Vongo version 5. They're going to take that and they're going to put it in the 1080, which is good news because I like what they've done with that heel counter. And while we're talking about the uppers, let's dial in on the widths. In regards to the men's, we have a D standard and a 2E width, so two widths on offer. In the ladies, same thing goes. We've got a B standard and also a D width as well. So again, I love it when brands make their good mileage shoes available in widths. It means they care. Okay guys, wrapping up Vongo version 5. This shoe here is going to be a very successful shoe for New Balance. I just know it. So a few runs that I've done in this shoe, I've loved how it felt underneath the foot. It's cushioned, it's relatively light, all things considered, and that take on arch support, this new engineering concept which brands, and not only New Balance, but brands are taking sort of leaps and bounds in this space. I mean, we use the Glycerin GTS from Brooks, for example, Kayano 28, Kayano Light, Arahi from Hoka, just to name a few. So brands are really spending a lot of time and effort executing those stable running shoes for that mild overpronator, but doing it in a way which is not intrusive. And if that's the brief, New Balance have absolutely nailed it with this shoe. The other thing I love about the Vongo is the fact that it is very similar to the 1080 franchise. Now, the only reason I say that is because New Balance had a huge amount of success with that shoe globally, and you take your winnings and then your learnings and you roll it into a shoe like this. I can't but see good things for this shoe going forward. Now, in regards to the stable category from New Balance, it's important to know that the 860 sits just underneath the Vongo. It's a mildly posted supportive shoe, but the Vongo just comes in at that top of the line, max cushioned, mildly stable shoe with that new gradient technology on the medial side. So guys, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, hit the red button, stay notified down below. We'll keep working on these shoe reviews for you, the running community out there. If you've got any questions, if you've used Vongos in the past, and please let me know if you've had the chance to run in version 3 or version 4. I never got the chance to run in either of those shoes, so I'd love to hear feedback down below. And also, if you've got any questions or queries about the shoe industry, just let us know as well. I'd love to hear from all around the world, all your comments and your questions with regards to footwear. We're all ears. We want to help you become better runners. So stay safe, be kind to one another, happy running, and we'll see you next time.